A new study has found distinct disparities in geographic access to pediatric clinics across Korea amid an increasing drop in birth rates and lack of medical infrastructure, and such accessibility has been found to affect household decisions regarding relocation or having additional children.
출생률 감소와 함께 소아청소년과 의료 인프라도 열악해지면서 해당 의료시설에 대한 지역별 접근성 격차도 뚜렷해지고 있다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. 이 같은 접근성은 이사나 추가 출산 의향에도 영향을 미치는 것으로 조사됐습니다. 자, 격차 얘기가 나왔어요.
네.
여기서 격차, difference라고 할 수도 있을 것 같은데 disparity라는 단어가 나왔네요.
Exactly. So here, usually when there's a study or some sort of poll, this word disparity comes in a lot. It means a lack of similarity or equality, basically difference, like you said. But the difference here is between, in this story, between the big
Different
cities and the
regions.
rural areas, different
Yes.
regions here. So you can call it discrepancy or disproportion. Imbalance is another way to describe that.
disproportion, imbalance, difference 다 비슷한데요. 어떤 것의 차이, 격차를 말하고 있습니다. 자, 여기서 특히 지역별 접근성 격차를 말하고 있는 건데요. 뭐에 대한 접근성이냐? 바로 소아과예요.
네.
소아과는 pediatrics.
Pediatrics, exactly. So here they say pediatric clinics. 소아과 의료 시설이겠죠. 근데, so pediatrics is the branch of medicine for children. So a 소아과 의사 would be pediatrician.
아하, pediatrician이 바로 소아과 의사군요. pediatric clinic라는 표현이 여기 나왔고요. 이거를 또 다시 줄여서 pediatrics 이렇게 말하기도 합니다.
The Group of Seven has amplified its denunciation of China's rising military and economic security threats, while urging Beijing to press Russia to stop its military aggression and withdraw its troops from Ukraine.
주요 7개국은 히로시마 정상회의에서 커져가는 중국의 군사 및 경제 안보 위협에 대한 비난의 목소리를 높이는 한편 중국이 러시아가 전쟁을 멈추고 우크라이나에서 철수하도록 압박할 것을 촉구했습니다. 자, 일단은요. 그 G7이 한 것 중에 amplify its denunciation이라고 했습니다.
Yes.
중국에 대한 비난을 어떻게 한 거죠?
They made it greater or larger or stronger. So to amplify means to do just that. Usually if you've heard of an amplifier,
Yeah.
증폭기라고
아하.
하죠. Amplifier라는 거는 특히나 like power, voltage or currents and electricity. If you do music, you know what an amp is. Amp is short for amplifier. So it makes something larger. Here in this news story, we're talking about the denunciation. When you denounce something, you condemn it or you formally accuse it of something. So the noun form denunciation has been amplified. So they've raised their voices even louder
Yeah.
against China.
아, 그래요. amplify가 증폭하다고요. denunciation은 여기서 비난이 되겠으니까 중국에 대한 비난의 목소리를 더 높였다라고 볼 수 있겠죠. 이제 G7이 그랬고요. And this is about China's rising military and economic security threats.
Right. So they're worried about these threats, these dangers, or these risks. And specifically, it's rising. So it's increasing. Their military and economic security threats. So along the military in terms of defense and the economy.
Rising threats. 점점 커져가는 위협이에요.
Yeah.
그런데 구체적으로는 military and economic security threat니까 military, 군사, economic는 경제, 그리고 security는 안보가 되겠죠. 군사 그리고 경제, 안보, 위협에 대한 중국을 향한 비난의 목소리가 높아졌다.
The World Health Organization and partners have launched a global network to detect and prevent infectious disease threats through the power of pathogen genomics.
세계보건기구 WHO는 병원체의 유전 정보를 분석하는 유전체학을 통해 앞으로 전염성이 높은 감염병 위험을 조기에 감지하고 예방할 수 있도록 하는 글로벌 네트워크를 출범시켰습니다. 자, 그러니까요. 그동안 WHO가 이 코로나 때문에 얼마나 정말 뭐 쉽게 말하면은 고생
애를
많이
썼죠.
했어요.
네.
네, 애를 많이 썼어요. 그러다 보니까 이제 앞으로는 우리가 다 같이 조기에 이런 걸 발견하고 찾아내고 하자 이런 것 같아요. So they've launched this global network.
Exactly. So they launched something. They started. They initiated this global network. And we use the word network. 우리말로도 많이 쓰죠. 네트워크라는 게. 근데 if you look at the definition, the dictionary definition of network, it's a group of like-minded people who have a common interest. So in this case, so it's like a web, like a spider's web of like-minded people. Here in this case, it's a network of people who want to prevent infectious diseases from occurring in the future.
Another situation where you might hear this is social networking.
SNS.
Well, that too, but I mean, before the world of social
I see,
media,
right.
you know, when we didn't have Insta or whatever, we actually used to meet up and socially network,
We
right?
used to do that, yes,
do
exactly.
people not do that anymore? It's very sad.
Everything's online now, right?
Yeah,
But exactly, your social network is your group of people, your group of
그쵸.
friends or acquaintances, perhaps.
맞아요. 그러니까 우리가 그 SNS라고 하는 거 있잖아요. 거기서 앞에 나온 S가 social이고 가운데가 네트워킹이고 그다음에 마지막 S는 뭐 시스템인가요?
Service or system,
서비스나
possibly.
시스템일 것
If you
같아요.
know, write in and let us know.
근데 참고로 원어민들은 SNS라는 표현을 안 써요.
They usually
social media라고
say
합니다.
social media,
네,
right?
네,
It means the
그렇습니다.
same thing.
근데 이제 거기서 이 SNS 앞에 두 글자가 바로 이 social networking인데 예전에 오프라인으로 직접 만났었죠, 사람들. 특히 외국에서는 그런 모임 자리가 참 많아요. 그래서 일종의 뭐라고 할까요? 회식은 아니고 그냥 파티의 느낌인데 거기에
친목을.
가서 그렇죠. 친목을 도모하는 건데 거기에서 다른 회사 다니는 사람들이랑도 이렇게 통성명하고 명함 같은 거 주고받을 수도 있고 번호 주고받을 수 있고 그런 게 많이 있었죠, 예전에는.
If you want to talk about work people, you can call it your professional network.
아하.
Your professional network would be a group of people that you've met through work, but they can become your social network as well, right?
소셜 네트워킹 하면 좀 더 친구 같은 느낌이 있군요.
약간 그런 의미가 어감이 좀 있죠.
이해가 됐습니다. 아하, 그래요. 자, 그래서 네트워크가 그렇게 뭔가 이렇게 망을 만든다라는
그렇죠.
의미로, 예, 그래서 여기 친목을 도모할 때 그런 친한 사람들 간의 망이 될 수도 있고, 글로벌 네트워크 그러면은 이제 국제적인 어떤 망 네트워킹을 하는 건데. 여기서는 a global network is basically a platform across different countries.
Right, exactly.
And what they want to do is they want to find and prevent infectious disease threats early on.
Yeah, this is something we heard all throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Infectious disease is a disease that can spread very easily, like the COVID-19 virus. And the threat or the danger here is what this global network wants to attack.
그렇죠. infectious는 이제 전염성이 높은 거고요. disease가 질병이니까 그런 위협, infectious disease threats 그런 것들을 미리 detect, 감지하고 prevent, 예방할 수 있는 그런 글로벌 네트워크를 출범시켰다라는 얘기가 되겠습니다.
At least 800,000 people in Myanmar are in need of emergency food aid and other assistance after Cyclone Mocha slammed into the conflict-torn country last week, according to the United Nations.
이미 분쟁으로 어려움을 겪고 있던 미얀마에 지난주 사이클론 모카가 상륙해 엄청난 피해를 내면서 현재 최소 80만 명의 이재민이 긴급 식량 지원 및 기타 원조를 기다리고 있는 형편이라고 유엔이 발표했습니다. If you are in need of something, what does that mean?
It means you need it. This is a good example of how written English and spoken English might be a little different. When we're speaking, we would just say, oh, Myanmar needs emergency food aid. But in written form, Myanmar is in need of.
Yeah.
So it's a little more literary term. But it basically means you need something. You require it or there's an urgent want for it.
That's right. 이게 문어체적인 느낌이 좀 있다라는 설명이네요. In need of something, 무언가를 필요로 하다. 또 다른 말로는 우리가 그냥 회화체에서는 그냥 needs 이렇게만 해도 되죠.
그렇죠.
뭐 I need something, you need something. 그렇지만 이제 조금 더 길게 I am in need of. 그래서 be in need of를 쓸 수 있고요. 또 비슷한 표현이 들어가는 그 속담이 있습니다. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
right?
그럴 때 쓰이는 in need는 뭐냐면은 정말 도움을 필요로 할 때 내 옆에 있어주는 친구라는 게
진정한 친구죠.
그렇죠. 네. 근데 정말 많은 게 축약이 된 문장이에요, 사실. A friend that is next to me when I am in need is a friend indeed. 이런 건데 이걸 팍 줄여가지고 a friend in need is a friend indeed라고 합니다.
That doesn't have the same ring to it.
Exactly. If it's too long, it would be wordy. 그래서 이 in need라는 게 어쨌든 뭔가 굉장히 필요로 한다라는 거 기억하시면 되겠고요. 자, Myanmar is a conflict-torn country right now.
Right. So conflict torn is hyphenated. It explains the country here. But a conflict is, of course, a disagreement or some sort of fight or battle. And so the country is in conflict and it has been torn. Torn here, the past participle, the PP of to tear. So it's been ripped or separated. So basically, it's a country that is conflict torn. It means there's been a lot of fighting, infighting there, specifically a civil war happening with the military junta
그렇죠.
in control.
이 단어가 나오면은 제가 항상 이렇게 기회를 틈타 요거 원고를 한번 찢습니다. 예. 자, 요거 테어잖아요.
We will recycle that piece of paper too.
네.
Yes.
자, 그래서 테어가 여기서는 과거 형태 톤으로 나왔단 말이에요.
네.
갈기갈기 찢겨졌다. 이거는 뭐냐면은 나라가 지금 이런 어려운 상황 속에 있다라는 뜻인데 무엇으로 인해서 갈등으로 인해서 분쟁으로 인해서 어려움을 겪고 있다라는 뜻이에요. Conflict torn country입니다.
Sales of K-pop albums in China have increased threefold amid indications of positive changes in the country toward Korean artists after years of anti-Hallyu sentiment.
중국에서 수년간 지속된 한한령 기류가 누그러지는 훈풍이 감지되는 가운데 중국 내 K-팝 음반 판매고가 최근 3배로 증가했습니다. 여기서 말하는 그 한한령, 뭐 일종의 이제 반한 감정이라고 볼 수 있을 텐데 그런 게 지금은요 아주 좋게 변하고 있어요. There are indications of positive changes.
Yeah, there are signs or there is evidence of some hopeful transformation, perhaps.
Sure.
So things are on the rise, on the up in terms for Hallyu and its entrance into China. It's been a hard couple of years, almost 6 years, I think, now since this has started. So now there are signs or indications of positive changes. So when you indicate something, you're pointing to something.
그렇죠. 네. 인디케이터가 우리 운전할 때는 깜빡이잖아요. 왼쪽으로 갈 거냐, 오른쪽으로 갈 거냐. 이거 보여줄 때
Is
인디케이터.
that a UK term? I've never heard that before.
그래요? What do you call it?
Turn signal.
그래요. 네.
I think in North America it's called the turn signal. I've never heard that before.
네.
Learn something new every day. Indicator.
맞습니다.
영국식 표현인가요?
그런가
좀?
봐요. 네. 근데 이것도 보여주는 거죠. 미리 좌회전하기 전에 깜빡이를 보여줘서 나 이제 갈 거야. 미리 알려주는 것처럼.
우리말로도 방향 지시등이죠.
그렇죠.
그러니까 지시를 해주는 거니까. indicator. 그게
그러네요.
더 네.
네.
It's a little turn signal. Sounds a little lazy, huh?
네. 그래서 여기서는 indications of positive change, 긍정적으로 변화하고 있는 어떤 사인, 징후 이런 것이다라는 것이고요. And this is after years of anti-Hallyu sentiment.
Right. So when you put anti or anti, you can pronounce it both ways. It means you're against something. 우리말로도 anti.
그렇죠. 맞아요.
그러니까 이제 다른 의미로 많이 쓰이고 있는데 when we talk about internet commenters, I think we talk about anti. Or if you're against a fan, you're hating somebody. That's where it's used. But here, the sentiment is the feeling or attitude towards something. So there's been a lot of anti-Hallyu sentiment in China, unfortunately. And sentiment is like just something that's emotional. So you know the word senchi, sentimental. So that's where sentiment comes from. Also, in business, there's the CSI, the Consumer Sentiment Index. 소비 심리 지수라고
그러네요.
있죠.
여기저기 많이 쓰이네요. 이 sentiment라는 단어가. 특히 우리가 알게 모르게 썼던 나 요즘 되게 센치해. 그게 사실은 이 sentiment를 어떻게 이렇게 바꿔가지고 우리말로 쓰는 것 같아요. 원래는 감정 아니면 어떤 느낌이라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그러나 여기서는 anti-Hallyu sentiment니까 반한 정서 같은 거고요. 특히 한령은 한류 제한령 이제 줄인 거라고 해요. 자, 그런 기류가 지금은 많이 변하고 있다. 좀 누그러지고 있다.
A National Assembly subcommittee has passed a special bill aimed at providing support measures for victims of home rental scams or 전세 fraud, including offering interest-free loans to affected tenants.
네, 전세 사기 피해자에게 현 시점의 최우선 변제금을 10년간 무이자로 대출해주는 등의 내용이 담긴 전세 사기 피해 지원을 위한 특별법이 여야 합의로 국회 소위를 통과했습니다. 정말 우여곡절 끝에 통과가 됐는데요. 이 표현부터 좀 볼게요. 무이자 대출을 제공한다. Offer interest-free loans.
Most times when you take a loan, you have to pay interest.
Yep.
Additional money. It's like the cost of borrowing money. So in this case, you're going to be able to borrow the money. You got to pay that back, but that's all you have to pay back. You only have to pay back the principal.
principal. 그렇죠. 자, 여기서 원금 그리고 이자라는 단어들을 우리가 알아두면 참 좋은데요. 원금은 principal이고요. 그다음에 이자가 interest가 될 텐데 interest free니까 무이자가 되겠습니다. 그러니까 원금만 돌려주면 되겠죠. 이 해당되는 금액에 대해서는 so just the principal, no interest.
That's right.
And that's what the government is going to offer. So offer, 여기서는 제공하다인데요. Offer interest-free loans.
We could also say provide instead of offer.
Sure. And this is going to be for the affected tenants.
Yeah, a tenant is a renter. Someone who lives in a house that they don't own. The person who owns the house is called the landlord.
그래요. 여기서 tenant는 세입자를 말하고 있습니다. 그래서 반대말 집주인은 landlord인데요. 한 단어예요. landlord. tenant, opposite word, landlord.
You can also use renter instead of tenant as well.
아, 그렇군요. renter and tenant, they're both the same thing,
That's right.
Okay.
The National Health Insurance Corporation has announced it may reclaim insurance payments for inline skaters or scooter riders who receive medical treatment for traffic accidents involving red light running and other traffic violations.
인라인 스케이트와 스쿠터, 여기서 스쿠터라고 했는데요. 킥보드 말하고 있는 겁니다. 인라인 스케이트와 킥보드 등을 타다가 신호 위반 등 중대 의무를 위반해 교통사고로 치료받을 경우 치료에 든 공단 부담금이 환수될 수 있다고 국민건강보험공단이 발표했습니다. 자, 이렇게 공단 부담금을 환수할 수도 있다. 이걸 영어로 뭐라고 하냐면 they could reclaim insurance payments.
If you reclaim something, you take it back.
Yeah.
So that's what it means. They made insurance payments. They find out that the reason why these accidents happened were because these inline skaters or scooter riders did something wrong. They'll take that insurance payment back.
Yeah. So normally when you get insurance payments, you claim that.
Sure,
Right?
right, an insurance claim.
Yeah. 그러니까 우리가 보통 이제 보험금 같은 거를 받을 때 받는 사람의 입장에서는 claim insurance money라고 얘기할 수 있는데요. 이건 이제 공단에서 다시 가져간다는 얘기죠. 그래서 reclaim the payments 이미 지급한 것에 대해서 환수를 한다라는 의미로 보시면 되겠습니다. reclaim insurance payments. So one of the reasons could be because the scooter rider or the the inline skater, maybe they ran a red light.
Which is not good. If you
No.
red light running means you go through a red light. You don't stop.
It has nothing to do with racing
No.
or running.
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It means to go through a red light.
네, 여기서 말하는 running은요, 이제 red light running이라고 하면은 신호 위반이 되겠습니다. 그래서 달리기랑 아무 상관이 없어요. 또 다른 말로 run a red light. 빨간불일 때 지나갔다는 얘기예요. 그러니까 신호 위반이 되겠죠.
And now in Korea, it's considered running a red light if you don't stop on a right turn first.
That's true as well.
It's a new law that I hope people
yeah.
all remember, because that
Yeah.
drives foreigners, especially foreigners from Canada, because we have that law where you can turn right on a red, but they don't have that in every country. But you got to stop first.
Yeah,
Or it's
exactly.
extremely unsafe.
And you'll be fined too. And I think that,
Right.
penalty is really making people think twice.
Sure.
자, 그래요. Run a red light 아니면 red light running이라고 하면은 이거 자체로 이제 그 신호 위반이 되겠습니다.
The U.S. Treasury Department is expected to run out of cash necessary to fund the federal government's obligations by June 8th or 9th, unless the debt ceiling is lifted, according to a report by Goldman Sachs.
미국 재무부의 현금 잔고가 부채 한도 상향 조정에 실패할 경우 다음 달 8일 또는 9일이면 최소 보유 기준 미만으로 떨어질 것으로 보인다고 골드만삭스가 보고서를 통해 밝혔습니다. The first expression to look at is to run out of cash.
Well, if you run out of anything, then you don't have enough of it. If you run out of time, sometimes that happens. We have other things we want to talk about, but we run out of time. We don't have enough time left. We can't do it.
Yeah, and with the printer, you might run out of toner.
Yeah, ink, sure.
Yeah,
Your
ink.
pen can run out of ink.
Yes, 그렇죠. 뭔가 다 떨어지다라는 뜻인데요. Run out of time, 시간이 이제 부족해요. Run out of cash, 현금이 다 떨어졌다. 아니면은 뭐 프린터에서 잉크가 다 떨어졌다. 이런 식으로 run out of something.
The worst is when you're cooking and you run out of some ingredient that you need. You run out of milk or whatever it is you need.
In the middle of
right.
Yeah, while you're cooking. 아, 진짜 요리하다가 갑자기 식용유 다 떨어졌어. 우유 다 떨어졌어. 이러면은 어떡해요. 그때 정말 it's what do you do? Do
Then you have to run out to the store and buy something.
Because you've run out of
Yes.
something. run out가 이렇게 두 가지 뜻이 다 있죠. 말 그대로 run out of the house라고 하면은 그냥 집 밖에 나가다라는 의미가 될 텐데 run out of something이라고 하면은 무언가가 소진이 되다, 다 떨어지다라는 뜻입니다. 자, 그다음에 이제 미국 얘기니까 federal, 뭐 연방 이런 단어가 나오죠, 많이. Federal government's obligations.
This is the government's bills.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone gets bills at their house every month. The government's got bills too. So this is things like paying federal employees, paying the military, Social Security, people who get checks every month for Social Security. They wouldn't get that. The big one that everyone's talking about is interest on national debt. So that if you don't pay interest on your national debt, that's called a default. And then that could cause huge economic problems around the world. But it's not going to happen.
If you're obliged to do something, if something is an obligation, then you have to do it.
You have to do it, right.
그렇죠. 네, 반드시 의무적으로 무언가를 이제 해야 된다라고 할 때 I am obliged to do something이라고 할 수 있고 obligation 자체도 이제 의무라는 뜻이 원래는 있는데 여기서는 we're looking at as you said, you know, cash is running out or is expected to run out, I should say. And the money that the government is supposed to spend, I suppose, is that what we're referring to here? The government's obligation.
Money it's money, they need money to pay their bills. That's what it means.
The money to pay their bills.
And in order to do that, they need to borrow more because the U.S. government spends more than it brings in taxes.
네, 그러니까 여기서는 연방 정부의 지급 책임을 말하고 있습니다.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has wrapped up a triumphant diplomatic offensive in Hiroshima, heading home bearing new arms, munitions, and the unwavering diplomatic support of G7 allies.
블라디미르 젤렌스키 우크라이나 대통령이 일본 히로시마에서 열린 주요 7개국 정상회의에서 새로운 무기와 군수품을 지원받고 G7 동맹국들의 흔들리지 않는 외교적 지원을 받으며 외교 전선에서 대승을 거뒀습니다. 그래서 이제 뭐 그 외교 전선에서 대승을 거뒀다 이 표현은 he's wrapped up a triumphant diplomatic offensive라고 표현을 했는데 물론 비유적인 표현이고요. And he's heading home bearing new arms, meaning weapons, and munitions.
Munitions is also weapons. So maybe a little bit redundant that they used that. But so yeah, munitions, military weapons, guns and bombs, ammunition. I read about some of the things that they're going to get. Ammunition for these HIMARS rocket launchers, artillery shells, anti-tank guided missiles, and thermal imaging systems. So he's going home with a lot of gear, a lot of new gear.
네, bearing new arms and munitions라고 했는데요. arms나 munitions나 다 이제 군수품, 무기라는 의미로 볼 수 있다라는 해석이네요. 그래서 그것을 가지고 다시 돌아가게 됐다라고 했는데 그걸 지원받게 됐다라는 얘기고. And of course, he's received unwavering diplomatic support. He being the Ukrainian president.
Right. So if somebody wavers on something, anything, you start to change your mind. You change your position on something. So unwavering means you are not wavering.
Yeah.
You're not going to change your mind. Your opinion or your position is not going to become weaker.
So the Western countries aren't saying, shall we help Ukraine?
Should we keep doing
Should we do
this?
No.
Like we've come this far, but I don't know if we should keep going. No.
If they did that, they would be wavering.
That's right.
But they're actually saying, we will give you our support. We will give you this and that.
Don't
Unwavering.
worry. Exactly. We're not changing position on this. Putin's not going to win.
아하, 그렇죠. wavering 하면 흔들리는 거고요. unwavering이니까 흔들리지 않는 diplomatic support, 외교적인 지원, 지지를 이제 약속받았다라는 뜻이 되겠죠.
A double amputee Gurkha soldier veteran who lost his legs in Afghanistan 13 years ago has achieved mountaineering history after reaching the summit of the world's tallest mountain, Mount Everest.
13년 전 아프가니스탄 전쟁에서 두 다리를 잃은 네팔 구르카 용병이 의족으로 세계에서 가장 높은 에베레스트 정상에 올랐습니다. 네, 그러니까 용병 출신 산악인이죠. 두 다리를 잃었는데 그럼에도 불구하고 에베레스트 정상에 올랐어요. 자, 이 표현 보겠습니다. He's a double amputee.
That means he's lost both of his legs. An amputee is someone who's lost a limb. A limb is amputated.
And a limb can be arms or legs. 그렇죠. 팔다리를 limbs라고 하는데요. An amputee는 그럼 팔다리를 잃은 사람이라는 의미가 되겠고 이제 팔인지 다리인지는 이제 그 상황에 맞게 해석을 하시면 되는데 여기서는 두 다리를 잃은이라는 뜻으로 a double amputee 뭐 이렇게 쭉 설명을 하고 있습니다. And he's achieved mountaineering history.
He has made his, it means he's made history. When it comes mountaineering, we're talking about climbing mountains.
그렇죠.
And that's because he's the first person, the first double amputee, the first, to be specific, the first double above the knee amputee to summit the world's tallest mountain.
아하, 그렇군요. Double above the knee amputee. So, yeah, you can see it's sort of like he has up to his thighs.
Yeah,
that was
been
where
amputated,
he was
right.
amputated.
Right.
그렇죠. 그러니까 make history라는 것 자체는 이제 역사를 새로 쓰다라는 뜻이 될 텐데요. He has done that. He has made history. He's achieved mountaineering history. 산 오르는 것에 대한 설명이다 보니까 중간에 mountaineering이 들어갔습니다.
The number of regular employees in the country's major companies increased by 0.2% in the first quarter this year from a year ago, while the number of non-regular employees increased by 40.6%.
올해 1분기 우리나라 주요 기업의 정규직 수가 작년 대비 0.2% 증가한 반면 비정규직은 40.6% 증가한 것으로 나타났습니다. Okay, so let's look at 정규직, regular employee.
I would call this a full-time employee or a permanent employee. So this means they get benefits, more job security. Their contract is indefinite.
Exactly. And when you say benefits, we're not talking about, generally speaking, the good side of something.
No, employee benefits.
Yes.
So whatever, different companies have different benefit packages.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get money for, I remember my old company in Canada, you get money for glasses or if you wanted like chiropractic work or massage, certain medical things that weren't covered
That's right.
by healthcare in Canada, a whole bunch of other things.
네, 이제 여기서 말하는 정규 직원을 여기서는 이제 regular employee라고 했지만 또 다른 말로 full-time employee라고 할 수 있고요. 이런 정규 직원 같은 경우에는 여러 가지 복지 혜택들이 있죠. 이걸 영어로 benefit라고 합니다. 근데 benefit를 사전적인 의미로 찾아보면 그냥 뭐 이점 정도로 볼 수 있는데 이 회사 다닐 때 좋은 점이 뭐야? 그런 의미가 아니라 정규직이면은 어떤 복지 혜택이 있어? 라고 할 때 What are the benefits you get as a full-time employee? 라고 물어볼 수가 있는 거죠. 그 다음에는요. increase by 얼마가 있어요.
Increased by, grew by, expanded by.
And you have to be careful with these words. So when you say increased to and increased by, you're looking at completely different things here.
That is right. Correct.
Increase by라고 하면은 얼마만큼 증가한 것이고요. increase to 그러면은 얼마까지 증가했을 때 최종적으로 이런 수치였다라고 할 때는 increase to를 쓰겠죠. 그렇지만 지금은 그 증가 폭을 얘기하고 있는 겁니다. increase by 얼마.
Over 200 first-year students at Seoul National University have taken a leave of absence in their first semester, with most believed to be preparing to apply for medical school.
올해 서울대 신입생 중 입학하자마자 휴학한 학생이 200명이 넘은 가운데 이 중 대부분은 의대 진학을 위해 반수를 하고자 휴학을 선택한 것으로 추정됩니다. Let's talk about, first of all, the term first-year students. I think a couple of weeks ago when Shane was here, he mentioned that saying freshman is a little not PC anymore because man is in the word.
Okay.
You know, and these days, you know, you have to sort of go with not man, but, you know, a person or something, but we can't say fresh person. That sounds weird.
Yeah, we don't even use that term in Canada anyway. So like I never say that term.
그래요.
We always say first year students.
아, 그렇습니다. 이 신입생이라는 단어를 그러니까 그동안에는 아마 영어 공부하시면서 freshman, and what's the next one?
Sophomore or junior,
yeah.
and then senior. Yeah, those are American terms.
맞아요. 네, 미국에서만 쓰는 표현이긴 한데 이 freshman이라는 게 단어 안에 man이 들어있잖아요. 남자. 그래서 요즘에는 이제 최대한 뭐 남자라는 단어가 들어간 표현들 안 쓰려고 하는 게 영어의 트렌드예요. 그래서 politically correct, PC가 되도록 하자라는 움직임이 있어서 freshman도 좀 덜 쓰는 것 같고 뭐 그렇지 않아도 캐나다나 아니면은 잉글랜드나 이런 다른 나라들은 그냥 first year student라고 합니다. 그래서 신입생이라는 표현이 나왔고 Now, a lot of them have taken a leave of absence.
What was that? Yesterday we studied that word incentia, which was
in absentia.
In absentia, right? In absentia, sorry. So absence means you're not there, right? So when you take a leave of absence, you're away from work or from school for a certain period of time.
That's
you
right.
usually, you know, there's some reason for it. You're sick or you want to work on something else. Sabbatical is another term. I think that's mainly for professors, I think. So in this case, they're away from school for the whole semester.
그렇죠. A leave of absence라는 표현 자체가 학교의 경우에는 휴학이 되겠고요. 그다음에 이제 직장인 같은 경우에는 뭐 일종의 휴가 같은 거죠. It could be a leave of absence because you're sick. If you're an employee at a company, 뭐 병가 아니면은 또 뭐라 그러나요? 뭐 반차, 월차 이런 것들 있잖아요. 이런 거 다 leave of absence라고 부릅니다.
Sick, or maybe you've had some trauma in the family, something like that.
그렇죠. 네, 집안 뭐 가정사 때문에 이렇게 잠시 일을 쉴 수도 있는데 그런 것들 우리가 이제 놀러 가는 휴가 말고요. leave of absence는 이제 직장에서 이렇게 잠깐 쉴 때 쓰는 표현이고 학교에서는 휴학이라는 의미로 쓸 수 있습니다. 내지는 can it be for a couple of days off school, or is it normally a semester, or does it depend?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's case by case.
Yeah.
It depends,
Okay.
right?
아, 알겠습니다.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a full semester, but a couple of days, I don't know. I don't
그렇죠.
know. It feels like it's longer than that
아, 그래요.
because you're taking this leave of absence. Like it's probably, for me, it feels like it's at least a month.
나 그래요. 그러니까 케이스 바이 케이스일 것 같아요. 나라마다 학교마다 좀 다르긴 하겠지만 꼭 뭐 한 학기 휴학 이게 아니더라도 학교를 좀 며칠 아니면 몇 주 쉴 수도 있잖아요. 이런저런 이유로 인해서. 요즘에는 특히 뭐 여러 가지 뭐 학습 체험이라든지 체험 학습이라고 하나요? 네, 이런 것 때문에 학교 잠시 쉬기도 하는데 이런 거 다 leave of absence고요. 그거를 어떻게 하느냐? 영어로는 take 동사를 씁니다. Take a leave of absence. So you always say this. You don't say do a leave of absence.
Yeah,
or,
it's
you
take
know,
a leave
it's
of
always
absence.
take.
Right. And that is just one of those verbs in English that gets used so often and it can be really confusing,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, I always take my phone with me everywhere, but I also take a shower,
Yeah.
take a bus. You know, when I was complaining about some Korean verbs and my wife said to me, do you realize how many different things you use take for? How difficult do you think that is?
맞아요. 영어 공부하는 입장에서는 이 take가 참 난해할 수 있어요. 의미가 워낙 많아서 그렇습니다. 근데 이렇게 시간을 좀 내서 쉰다라는 의미로 take some time off, take a leave of absence,
Take a break.
take a break. 네, 이럴 때 정말 많이 쓰니까 그렇게 기억해 주시면 되겠고요. One of the reasons it looks like is to apply for medical school.
You apply for something, you just formally submit the application. In this case, it's for medical school, so you're applying for admission to the school.
그렇죠. apply for something 하면 무언가를 신청하다가 될 수도 있고 이제 학교의 경우는 지원하다가 될 수 있는데 medical school, 의대에 지원하기 위해서 뭐 이렇게 반수를 하는 경우가 많은 것으로 보여지는 거죠.
A fake image purporting to show an explosion near the Pentagon has been shared by multiple verified Twitter accounts, causing confusion and leading to a brief dip in the stock market.
미국 국방부 청사 인근에서 큰 폭발이 일어난 장면을 묘사한 가짜 사진이 트위터를 통해 확산하면서 미국 주식 시장이 한때 출렁였습니다. 자, 이게 뭔가를 주장하다 아니면 뭔가 보여주려고 한다라고 할 때 purport라고 할 수 있습니다. purporting to show something.
That's when you claim to show something, but usually it's false
그렇죠.
or not true.
It's hard to believe normally when
Someone
something is
purports to be. If you use that term, it's like, well, this person said they're this, but they're probably not.
It's like supposedly, purportedly.
Right. Purportedly.
Yeah, 그렇죠.
And we should point out this was on Monday local time.
그래요. 자, 그러니까 purporting to show. 뭐뭐를 보여준다고 주장하는 그런 이미지가 있었습니다. 뭘 보여준다고 했느냐? An explosion near the Pentagon. 미국 국방부 청사 인근에 폭발이 있었다라는 것을 주장하는 그런 이미지가 있었어요. 나중에 알고 보니까 이제 페이크 뉴스였는데요. 이게 누가 쉐어링을 했느냐? Verified Twitter account라는 표현이 나와요.
It doesn't mean anything anymore, though.
Oh, really?
Right,
Does
'cause-
anyone get verified? Is that
No,
what you
now
say?
anyone can get a blue check mark if you pay a monthly fee. So that's why. So like one of the, some of the images people thought it was being shared by Bloomberg.
그렇군요. 이제 그러니까 verified account라는 거는요. 인증된 계정이라는 뜻인데 보통은 소셜 미디어에서 뭐 몇 명 이상의 팔로워가 있거나 아니면 공인이거나 뭐 유명한 사람이거나 이럴 때만 옆에 별 같은 거 붙잖아요. 파란색 별. 트위터도 마찬가지인 것 같아요. 그래서 이런 별이 붙어 있는 verified account가 쉐어링을 하다 보니까 많은 사람들이 믿었어요. 진짜 폭발이 explosion이 있었다고? 그런데 알고 보니까 it was not true, right? It was just
It was AI.
fake. It was AI. 가짜였어요. And this caused 혼란, confusion, and a brief dip in the stock market.
If something is brief, it's short. So it was just and a dip means a decrease. So there was a short decrease in the stock market. The S&P 500 was down like a quarter of a percentage point.
But it went back up
It went
again.
back up. But it's actually the markets are even down further on Tuesday. So, but it definitely shocked the markets for a little while there.
네, 주식 시장에 영향을 줄 만큼 한때 잠시 일시적으로 이게 주식 시장이 내려갔다가 올라오는 출렁였습니다. So there was a brief dip. 잠깐 내려가는 것을 dip라고 얘기하죠.
Sometimes after lunch, you might experience a dip in your energy levels. You ever feel sleepy after lunch?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right.
Food coma, is that the term?
Yeah, exactly. A food coma.
I experience that often, I have to say. Especially when it gets warmer.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I do
그렇죠.
too.
뭐 춘곤증 이런 말도 있잖아요. 식곤증. 그러니까 이제 그것도 에너지 레벨이 딥한다라고 얘기를 할 수 있을 것 같아요. 잠시 쭉 떨어졌다가 또 다시 올라오기는 하는데 뭐 그런 것도 딥고 아니면 우리가 뭐 과자 같은 거 미국식 나초 칩 같은 거 이렇게 소스에다가 딥해 먹는다. 아니면 이 소스 자체를 딥라고 부르기도 합니다. 살짝 찍어서 먹는 거니까요.
I like dill.
Dill?
Dip. Yeah, Canadians love dill flavor.
Is
Like
that
we
the
have
green thing?
like a dill pickle.
Oh, yeah.
Dill
Oh, right,
pickles.
right.
Dill is an
Sweet.
herb. It's an herb.
그렇군요.
And like we love dill pickle potato chips.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, you can't get
I'll
them in
have to
Korea. I
try-
miss those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wanted to try it.
Meta has been fined a record-breaking 1.2 billion euros, or about 1.7 trillion won, by European Union regulators for violating EU privacy laws by transferring the personal data of Facebook users to servers in the United States.
페이스북의 모기업인 메타가 유럽에서 개인정보보호법 위반으로 역대 최대 과징금인 12억 유로, 우리 돈으로 약 1조 7천억 원을 부과받게 됐습니다. This is a record-breaking amount.
Right, it's more than the previous record, the record high.
Yeah.
So it's the most ever, the biggest fine they've ever levied.
네, 여기서 record는 기록인데요. 기록을 깬다라고 할 때 break a record. 근데 만약에 기록을 세운다라고 하고 싶으면 set a record라고 할 수 있죠. So in this case, there was a record. Now they've broken it, so it's a new record.
That's right.
Record breaking. 그래서 기록적인 금액이다. 아주 큰 과징금인데요. 12억 유로입니다. One of the reasons, or well, the reason for that is because apparently Meta or Facebook violated EU privacy laws.
And EU privacy laws are considered the toughest in the world, actually. It's called the General Data Protection Regulation. So this law governs the processing of personal data of any individuals inside the EU, the way their data is handled, what can be done with it.
네, 아주 엄격하게 규제를 하고 있는 유럽연합의 이 privacy law, 개인정보보호법입니다. privacy라는 단어의 발음도 한번 짚고 넘어갈게요. 북미권에서는 보통 privacy라고 하고 영국에서는 privacy라고도 발음을 합니다. 그래서 발음은 둘 다 가능하고요. 저는 그냥 레이 선생님 따라서 privacy라고 지금 발음을 했는데 다 됩니다.
Korean garden designer Hwang Ji-hae has taken center stage at this year's Chelsea Flower Show in the UK, one of the world's most prestigious horticultural events. With King Charles III expressing his admiration for her work.
네, 우리나라 정원 디자이너 황지혜 씨가 세계에서 가장 권위 있는 원예 행사 중 하나인 영국 첼시 플라워 쇼에서 찰스 3세 국왕의 찬사와 함께 주목받고 있습니다. 주목받고 있다. Take center stage.
If you're in the center of a stage, then probably everyone's looking at you, right?
Yeah.
So you're the center of attention.
As opposed to being in the corner or right at the back. Or,
Yeah,
you
or not
know,
even
like-
being on a stage,
yeah,
right?
aha.
Just a regular person walking around, but yeah, you're on a stage, you're kind of raised up, so it's figurative, right? That
And you use take again here.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's another one.
Yeah.
Take center stage. Where are you taking it with you? Right? Exactly. So that is just one of those
Yeah.
English verbs that you have to.
Just learn by heart.
You just got to get used to saying it. You know, there's many things that
Yeah.
we use it with. So many,
맞아요.
actually.
네, take가 또 여기서 쓰였는데 또 전혀 다른 용법으로 쓰였죠. Take center stage. 그냥 하나의 표현으로 이렇게 외우시면 됩니다. 뭐냐면은요, 무대의 중앙에 서다, 즉 각광받다, 주목받다라는 뜻이에요. And this event is a horticultural event.
Yeah, sure. It's a garden exhibition is the other phrase. So anything with horticulture refers to gardening.
그렇죠. 네, 원예 행사라는 뜻인데요. horticultural이라고 합니다. H-O-R-T-I 그다음에 뒤에 cultural 이렇게 붙여서 한 단어인데요. horticultural event.
A person who's into that can even be called a horticulturalist.
네, 그렇죠. 뒤에 ist 붙이면은 이제 그런 원예 정원사가 될 것 같아요.
The launch of Korea's space rocket Nuri was postponed just hours before liftoff on Wednesday due to a technical glitch found during final preparations.
어제 예정됐던 한국형 발사체 누리호의 발사가 최종 준비 과정에서 발견된 기술적 문제로 인해 예정 시각을 몇 시간 앞두고 연기됐습니다. 네, 어제 원래는 이제 저녁 때 발사 예정이었는데요. 누리호의 발사가 일단은 미뤄졌고요. 밤샘 점검이 이어진 상황입니다. 오늘 오전 중으로 발사를 할지 말지, 언제 발사를 할지 이런 발표가 나올 것으로 예상이 되는데요. 이 표현 볼게요. Just hours before liftoff.
Right before, only a few hours before. I think the better word to look at here is postpone. If you postpone something, you delay it. It's usually it's something that's planned, an event, so a meeting, a conference, a wedding, something like that, or a game. So
Yeah.
sports games are postponed a lot because of rain, and then you just delay it until a later date. You put it off until a later date. And if you hear, so the meeting was postponed just minutes before it was supposed to start.
Yeah.
Maybe I think that's probably 5 to 10 minutes. So, I can't make the meeting. I'm really sorry. We're going to have to put it off until tomorrow.
Put it off is another way of saying postpone.
Sure.
미루다, 연기하다, put it off 아니면 postpone 이라고 할 수 있습니다. Just hours before liftoff는 이륙 바로 몇 시간 전이라는 뜻이죠. 그래서 just가 불과 이거밖에 안 되나 그런 느낌으로 보시면 되겠습니다.
It's only 3 hours by the looks of it.
Yep. And this was due to a technical glitch.
When you hear glitch, it means some problem. And when you technical glitch, there was some malfunction. Something went wrong with the equipment.
네.
And in this case, it was computers.
A technical problem 아니면 technical glitch는 기술적인 문제라는 뜻이고요. glitch라는 단어 자체는 결함인데 우리가 의역을 해서 이제 기술적인 문제로 인해라고 볼 수 있습니다.
Korea's antitrust regulator has decided to fine the country's 3 mobile carriers a combined 33.6 billion won for their misleading advertisements on the speed of their 5th generation or 5G network services.
공정거래위원회가 국내 이동통신 3사의 5G 이동통신 속도 관련 광고를 거짓 과장 광고로 규정하고 과징금 336억 원을 부과했습니다. 이동통신사라는 표현이요. mobile carrier군요.
That's the company that you pay for your mobile phone service. I get a text message every month showing me how much I had to pay.
Yep.
So yeah, the companies that provide us with cell phone service.
mobile carrier 이 자체가 이제 이동통신사가 되겠습니다. 이제 세 개 회사니까 3 mobile carriers 이동통신 3사가 되겠고요. A combined 얼마라고 했습니다. 그러니까 총 얼마라는 뜻인데 336억 원의 과징금 얘기죠. They have been fined this much money for misleading advertisements.
Advertisements. Yeah, it sounds very nice how you say it.
How do you say it?
I would say advertisements or ads.
그래요. 스트레스가 좀 달라요. 북미권에서는 advertisements.
Advertisements. Yeah.
이렇게 ad is the stress on the ad then.
Yeah.
Advertisements.
Yes, because we'll just say ads.
We say ads too in
You
England.
say adverts.
Well,
People
we
say adverts a lot.
adverts or ads as well.
Yeah.
But when we say the full word, we say advertisements. 영국에서는 스트레스가 강세가요. advertisement 그 가운데 들어가 있습니다. 줄여서는 그냥 advert 아니면 ad라고 할 수도 있고요. misleading이 뭐예요?
Deceiving. I think we did a little bit of that yesterday. So it's not correct, but you try to make people believe something that isn't true.
그렇죠.
And like one of the phrases they used, at least in the English articles, the FTC, the Fair Trade Commission, said that these 3 mobile carriers had exaggerated
Yep.
the performance.
That's right. 여기서 말하는 mislead라는 거는요. 사실이 아닌데 이게 마치 뭐뭐인 것처럼 거짓되게 오해하게끔 한다라는 거예요. 우리 누군가 리딩한다라고 생각해 보세요. 끌고 가는 거죠. 근데 mislead니까 잘못된 길로 데려가는 겁니다. 즉 여기서는 좀 의역을 할 필요가 있어요. 과장했다. 예, 그러니까 they said it was going to be 20 times faster than, the other networks, and so it was a big exaggeration.
Right, and they all said that they were the providers of the fastest 5G service in Korea. So they all said it, but none of them offered any verified test results. And what the FTC said was the speeds they said could only be really observed in a limited environment, not that we would all as users be able to experience those speeds.
그렇죠. 자, 그래서 이 오해하게끔 했다. 마치 항상 이 5G 폰을 쓰게 되면은 엄청나게 빠른 속도로 어디에서나 잘 터질 것처럼 얘기를 했지만 이게 좀 과장된 거짓 광고였다는 얘기입니다.
A Russian senior official who reportedly criticized the Kremlin's offensive in Ukraine as a fascist invasion has died of undisclosed causes, adding to a list of at least 13 high-profile Russians who've lost their lives under mysterious circumstances in the last 15 months.
우크라이나 전쟁을 파시스트 침공이라고 비판한 것으로 알려진 러시아 고위 관료가 최근 알려지지 않은 이유로 사망했습니다. 지난 15개월 사이 비슷하게 의문사한 러시아 저명 인사가 최소 13명에 달하는 것으로 알려졌습니다. 의문사했다. 이거 한번 볼게요. Die of undisclosed causes.
That means the cause of death has not been revealed publicly. People don't know what he died from.
그렇죠.
If anything is undisclosed, it's kept secret.
undisclosed라는 것은 알려지지 않았다라는 뜻입니다. disclosed가 공개된 거고요. undisclosed는 비공개, 알려지지 않은 거고요. causes는 원인이죠. 알려지지 않은 이유로 인해 사망한. 여기서 바로 의문사했다고 볼 수 있겠습니다. So many people have died of undisclosed causes or under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, right.
Again, similar.
Similar. Well,
Not
like
the same,
undisclosed
yeah.
causes, you know the person's died. They're just not telling you how they died or what the cause was. Now, mysterious circumstances are the situation, the situation or the conditions of their death or how it happened was quite strange, weird, and unclear. We got a lot of questions about how this actually happened.
Exactly.
Like, some of these other people who died, one guy fell off a balcony in India. There was lots of these ones where, okay, how did that happen?
그래요. 그러니까 이것도 어떻게 보면은 이제 의문사인데 조금 구별을 하자면은 under mysterious circumstances는 말 그대로 하면 알 수 없는 불가사의한 상황 속에서 사망했다. 의문사. 아까는 이제 die of undisclosed causes니까 사실 뭔가 이유가 있을 수 있어요. 그러나 이제 공개되지 않은 것이다라는 데에서 약간의 표현 차이가 있습니다. Die of undisclosed causes, as you said, could mean that someone knows why, but they're not saying it.
They're not saying.
They're not disclosing it. 공개를 하지 않는 것일 뿐일 수 있고요. Mysterious circumstances로 사망했다라고 하는 것은 모르는 거죠. 그냥 왜 그렇게 죽었는지 그런 의미가 되겠고, and also another thing that some people can get confused with, and I think even maybe for advanced speakers, is die of and die from. So I've looked this up. If you say die of something, it's normally something that's internal. So
some disease, right?
Die of a disease, die of old age, die of something that has
Cancer,
caused their
right.
body to shut down.
Sure.
But if you say die from, it's normally external. So it could be an injury
Sure.
or an external trauma.
Died
or
from a
something.
gunshot wound.
Die from a car accident, something like that. So die from normally is external. Die of is internal. Well, not, something
Yeah.
that's caused the body to shut down.
Right, and
Yeah.
you maybe have known about it for a while.
Yes.
They've been suffering from that for a while.
Indeed.
India has made it compulsory for cough syrup makers to get samples tested before exporting their products. After Indian-made cough syrups were linked to the deaths of dozens of children in Gambia and Uzbekistan.
인도산 기침 시럽이 감비아와 우즈베키스탄에서 발생한 수십 명의 어린이 사망 사건에 관련이 있는 것으로 드러나자 인도 정부는 제조사들이 수출 전 당국의 샘플 검사를 받도록 의무화했습니다. 자, 의무화하다. Make something compulsory.
It's mandatory. In this case, required by law.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, in university, when picking our courses, so I had, I was in a business program, so we had compulsory courses, ones you had to take.
Sure.
The opposite would be electives. Then you can select whatever you want.
네.
Way more compulsory courses than elective courses.
네, 그게 바로 우리 대학교에서 수업 들을 때 그 전공 필수 과목이라고 했나요? 저도 이 용어들이 갑자기 생각이 안 나네요. 그 다음에는 이제 우리가 그냥 선택해서 하는 과목들 있잖아요. 그건 elective courses라고 하고 반드시 이제 전공과 관련된 그런 필수 과목들은 compulsory courses라고 하는 경우가 많이 있습니다. 그래서 의무라는 뜻이 있고 make something compulsory 그러면 의무화하다예요. And let's look at to be linked to something.
It means there's a connection. There's some connection between these two things. In this case, it pretty much means that the cough syrup is responsible for these deaths. It was the cause of the deaths.
그렇죠. Be linked to something은 무언가 연관되어 있다라는 뜻인데 이 어린이 사망 사건과 연관이 있는 것으로 보여지기 때문에 이제 반드시 앞으로는 이런 기침 시럽을 수출하기 전에 인도 정부에다가 샘플 검사를 받아라라고 정부에서 얘기를 했습니다.
Panama's immigration office has confirmed that a Chinese national was caught red-handed at Tokumen International Airport trying to enter the U.S. using a fake Korean passport.
네, 위조 한국 여권을 사용해 미국에 입국하려던 한 중국인이 환승지인 파나마 토쿠멘 국제공항에서 적발됐다고 파나마 이민청이 밝혔습니다. 아하, 자 이제 중국 시민, 중국 국민이라는 뜻으로 a Chinese national이라고 했습니다.
That just means what your nationality is. So I'm a Canadian national, you're a South Korean national.
그렇죠. 네, 그러니까 국적자를 얘기할 때 무슨 national이라고 할 수 있어요. 이제 캐나다 국적이시니까 레이 선생님은 a Canadian national이 되겠고 저는 Korean national이 될 텐데.
You'd have to say South Korean national in English news to
맞아요.
specify it.
그러니까 그렇습니다. 사실은 이제 해외 뉴스, 그러니까 국제 뉴스를 영어로 얘기할 때는 이게 South Korea인지 North Korea인지 명시를 좀 해주셔야 돼요. 그렇지 않으면은 그냥 우리는 뭐 한국이라고 물론 우리말로는 하지만 영어식으로 할 때는 이게 어느 코리아냐 헷갈릴 수가 있으니까 이제 International News in English로 할 때는 South Korea or South Korean passport 이렇게 얘기를 하는 게 맞습니다. 그다음에 여기서는 this person was caught red-handed.
If you're caught red-handed doing something, you are caught in the act
That's right.
of doing something wrong.
그렇죠. 현장에서 적발되는 거죠. 딱 걸렸어. 이런 거죠. So you're doing something and then you get caught
You
while
get caught
doing it.
while doing it, like, you know, pickpocketing, so stealing their wallet and a police officer sees you. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, I saw you. I'm seeing you do this right now with my own two eyes.
Exactly. So 현장에서 딱 이렇게 덜미가 잡히거나 그랬을 때 be caught red-handed라고 합니다.
Korea's homegrown space rocket Nuri blasted off from Naro Space Center on Thursday at 6:24 p.m., successfully putting 7 practical satellites into orbit so far, a critical mission for the country's space program.
한국형 발사체 누리호가 어제 오후 6시 24분 나로 우주센터에서 발사돼 지금까지 7개의 위성을 성공적으로 궤도에 안착시킨 것으로 확인됐습니다. 자, 그래요. blast off, lift off 다 비슷한 표현인가요?
Yeah, it just means the rocket went up, up, up. Yes, when I was a kid, I loved the term blast off. I used to watch the American launches back in the 80s on TV.
Okay.
And it was always really exciting because you'd see the countdown and say, 3, 2, 1, blast off! We have blast off! Yeah, astonishing. So a successful blast off, a successful lift off yesterday. What a joy.
네. I watched the countdown as well and it was incredible.
Yeah, it really is. Again, we're talking about the brilliance of the human race sometimes. The fact that we can launch these rockets into space, it's incredible.
It is. blast off가 이제 발사하다라는 의미인데요. This rocket blasted off라고 했습니다. 그래서 주어를 이제 누리호로 잡고 blasted off라고 했고요. From the Naro Space Center in the evening at 6:24. And, it's successfully so far put 7 out of 8 satellites into orbit. And this is a critical mission, correct?
Yes. Now, sometimes when you hear critical, it'll be when someone is saying, well, you're not very good. Like, Sue, I didn't like the way you read that headline. I'm going to be very critical of you.
You are very critical.
However, the meaning here is different. Here, when we talk about a critical momomo, a critical something, it's going to be something that's really important, that's vital. If it doesn't work, it's going to be a big problem or a big danger or it's not going to go well. So, for example, at work, you may have a critical meeting where if this meeting goes well, everything's going to be okay. If it doesn't go well, oh no, I'm fired. Or a critical project or a critical client.
Yeah.
The time between 7:30 and 8 a.m. is critical for Sue and I because that's the time when we prepare for Morning Special. We have to make sure every headline, are we up to date? Is everything okay? Has Paul got his donuts? No donuts today. Oh no, you've missed the critical thing, Sue.
그렇죠. critical이 여기서는 굉장히 중요하다라는 뜻인데요. 우리가 또 다른 의미도 잘 알고 있잖아요.
네.
This person is very critical이라고 하면 두 가지 의미가 있을 수 있어요. 하나는 지금 말한 굉장히 중요한 사람이다.
네.
또 하나는 굉장히 비판을 많이 하는 사람이다가 될 수도 있죠. 그래서 critic라고 하면은 무언가에 대한 비평가잖아요. 뭐 movie critic가
Sure.
있을 수 있고. 그래서 그런 이제 비평을 하는 분들을 critic라고 부르는데 critical도 그런 의미로 뭐 비평을 하거나 아니면 비판을 하거나 그럴 때 쓰기도 합니다만 여기서는 그런 의미가 아니고요. 굉장히 중요한 critical mission입니다. 그러면 이제 비평이나 비판을 잘하는 폴 선생님은 너무 중요한 사람이다. 이렇게 말하고 싶으면 critical Paul is critical on the show.
Or critical to the show.
critical to the show.
Yes.
그러네요. 이 프로그램에 있어서 굉장히 중요한 인물이십니다.
I don't think I'm that critical, though.
아니지만 예문을 위해서 한번 붙여봤습니다.
Oh, I see. All right. I won't be critical about it. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has announced that he is entering the Republican presidential primary, setting up a clash with the current GOP frontrunner, former President Donald Trump.
론 디산티스 플로리다 주지사가 2024년 미국 대선 출마를 공식적으로 선언했습니다. 이로써 공화당의 유력한 대선 후보인 도널드 트럼프 전 대통령과의 대결이 시작됐습니다. GOP라고 하는 게 Republican Party이죠.
Yeah, it's another name we'll see being used interchangeably, either the Republican Party or the GOP. You know that's referring to America's sort of right-wing party.
Yeah, exactly. 자, 그 Republican Party 아니면 GOP라는 표현이 나오면은 다 공화당이라고 보시면 되겠고요. 그런데 이제 공화당에서 이제 누가 대선 후보가 되느냐 그 이제 첫 번째 단계로 primary가 열린단 말이에요.
Yes.
Presidential primary가 좀 설명을 해주시겠어요?
Sure. Well, this happens around every election. Before it happens, they have to choose the candidate. And the way they do that is in a primary, which is where the Republican Party and its members will vote for the candidate they want to stand as president. So it's a election before the election, but it's an election only for the Republicans.
Sure, of course. 그렇죠. 이게 GOP 안에서 한 명의 후보가 나와야 되는데요. 그 후보를 걸러내는 과정이라고 보면 되겠죠.
Yeah, so normally there's a dozen candidates or so, but certainly we have one or maybe two who were the front runners.
그래요. 지금 이제 그 대통령 예비 선거라고도 볼 수 있을 것 같은데 지금 그 트럼프냐, 디산티스냐 이 공식적으로 발표하기 전부터도 이런 구도로 갈 것으로 많은 사람들이 이미 보고 있었어요. 근데 이제 공식 발표가 된 것입니다. GOP에서 frontrunner가 트럼프 전 대통령이라고 써 있는데요. frontrunner가 뭘까요?
A front runner is someone who's running at the front. They're leading the way. So in a literal race, let's say a marathon, the front runner will be the one who's at the front of the pack, the one who's running the fastest, who's going to win, or may not win, actually. We have to see. But certainly looks like they have the advantage. They are in the lead at the moment. Until DeSantis' announcement, certainly former President Donald Trump was the front runner. Whether he'll be the front runner from now on, we'll have to see because it's going to be a popularity race.
Yeah, and it could be a very tight race at that as well. front runner라는 것은요. 유력 후보라는 의미로 여기서는 볼 수 있어요. front 앞에 runner 달리는 사람.
네.
그러니까 달리기에서 지금 앞서고 있는 사람이라는 얘긴데 달리기라고 우리가 지금 뭐 직역을 하면 안 되겠죠. 이 상황에서는. 그러나 영어에서는 이런 뭐 대통령 선거라든지 뭐 어떤 선거든지 간에 그거를 다 레이스라고 표현을 합니다. 그래서 presidential race에서 특히 이 primary에서 각 당에 누가 최종 후보가 되느냐 그게 이제 결정이 돼야 될 거고요. 아까 GOP 했는데 이게 Grand Old Party의 약자고 예전에 이렇게 불렀었는데 요즘은 Grand Old Party 이렇게 부르진 않지만 약자로는 여전히 그냥 Republican Party를 의미하기 위해서 그냥 GOP라고 합니다.
Exactly, yes. And they also have their own animals. I believe one party has a donkey and the other has an elephant.
오, interesting. 자, 그래요. 이렇게 표현 봤습니다.
193 countries have unanimously approved a new greenhouse gas, GHG, monitoring initiative that will support urgent action to reduce heat-trapping gases which are fueling temperature increases.
193개의 국가가 모여 온실가스를 줄이기 위한 긴급 조치를 지원하기 위해 글로벌 온실가스 감시 체계를 설립하는 결의안을 만장일치로 통과시켰습니다. 만장일치로 뭔가 통과시켰을 때 unanimous 써야겠죠?
Yeah. Everybody agreed. All 193 countries have said, yes, we want to do this because we need to do this. So if something is unanimous, like in a unanimous decision,
Yeah.
or a unanimous approval, unanimous agreement, it means that every single party or every single person has said, yes.
Exactly. The pronunciation is what you want to keep in mind here. Even though it starts with a UN, it's not a unanimous.
No,
a
it's unanimously,
unanimous.
like
Yep.
united.
Ah, yes, indeed. So, regardless of where you are in the world, and there are many different pronunciations of English, but for this one, it's always going to be unanimous.
Yeah, the pronunciation is unanimous.
That's
for
right.
unanimous.
네, 그렇습니다. unanimous의 발음이 만장일치로 다 unanimous 이렇게
Yeah,
발음이
and
되죠.
it's critical you say you, not un.
That's right. It is very critical. 자, 그 다음으로 heat trapping gases는 뭘까요?
We had this, I think, a week or two ago, meaning we keep the gases in. They're trapped. They can't escape, which, well, warms us up. And we're already headed towards a record summer here in Korea. Yeah, so the idea is reducing these heat-trapping gases, getting rid of them, having less of them. And so maybe we can let some of that heat out.
heat trapping, 열을 가둬두는 가스, 온실가스를 얘기하고 있습니다.
The World Food Programme has warned that millions of people in the Horn of Africa are trapped in a hunger emergency as the region lurches from crisis to crisis, including the longest drought in recorded history.
네, 세계식량기획 WFP가 아프리카의 뿔 지역에 사는 수백만 명의 사람들이 기록적인 가뭄을 포함해 동시에 여러 위기에 직면하면서 긴급한 수준의 기아에 시달리고 있다고 경고했습니다. lurch라는 동사는 어떤 뜻일까요?
If we lurch, it's not a good thing. It means we are unsteady, we are uncontrolled, and we abruptly move. Maybe we lurch to the left or lurch to the right. For example, one of my close friends, when she first learnt to drive, I made the mistake of getting in the car with her. I said to her, oh, we have to turn left here. She lurched to the left. The car lurched to the left suddenly.
Oh, my gosh.
Luckily, we were okay. But yeah, so here, the Horn of Africa, these countries, they're suddenly moving this way to one crisis and over to this way to another crisis. It's uncontrolled, it's sudden, and it's unsteady.
이렇게 비틀비틀 거리는 거군요.
네.
그래서 지금 이 지역이 지금 흔들리고 있다. From crisis to crisis니까 위기, 이후에 또 위기, 끊이지 않는 여러 가지 위기들 때문에 지금 상당히 상황이 안 좋다라는 얘기고요. 이 지역으로 말할 것 같으면은 이제 아프리카의 뿔, Horn of Africa라고 불리는데 아프리카 대륙의 북동부 지역을 말하고 있습니다. 자, 그다음에 the longest drought in recorded history.
Yeah, if something is the longest or the shortest in recorded history, it means, well, since we've been writing things down, since we've had history books, since we've had scholars or whoever keeping records. And here a drought is when we don't have enough water or we have no rain at all.
Yeah.
And there are some countries, thanks in part to climate change, who are suffering from these record-breaking droughts, the longest droughts in recorded history.
네, drought가 가뭄이죠. 근데 in recorded history라고 하면은 기록된 역사상입니다.
네.
그러니까 우리가 사실 인류를 다 놓고 봤을 때 기록이 없는 과거에 대해서는 모르죠.
Yeah.
네, 그러니까 뭐 그것까지도 다 뭐 포함하기는 좀 어렵고 적어도 기록이 있는 역사상은 이거다라고 영어식으로는 그렇게 표현을 합니다.
Yes, and before recorded history, we had prehistory.
Indeed.
A watch that was once owned by the last emperor of China's Qing dynasty, whose life formed the basis of the 1987 Oscar-winning film The Last Emperor, has sold for a record $6.2 million at auction.
네, 영화 마지막 황제의 모티브였던 중국 청나라 마지막 황제의 손목시계가 경매에서 620만 달러, 우리 돈으로 약 81억 원에 낙찰됐습니다. 자, 한때는 누구의 것이었다라고 할 때 it was once owned by someone.
Yeah, previously belonged to them. We have the term to, if we own something, it means it belongs to us, it is ours. But if it was once owned, it means it doesn't belong to us anymore. We've lost it or maybe we've passed away and it now belongs, it's now owned by somebody else.
네, 한때는 뭐뭐뭐 했다라고 할 때 once라고 할 수 있어요. once owned by는 한때 누가 소장했던 내지는 소유했던이 되겠죠. 자, 그 다음에는요. Form the basis of this movie.
Yes, was the foundation of it, was the beginning idea, which
Yeah.
set everything up. So if something forms the basis of something, it's not the whole of it, but it's starting it out. It's giving it its main theme or main idea or the critical thing about it.
우리말로는 이제 그 모티브가 됐다라고 얘기할 수 있는데요. Form the basis라고 하면 토대를 이룬다가 됩니다. 즉 1987년도 영화 마지막 황제의 토대가 된 모티브가 된 실제 마지막 황제의 손목시계가 이렇게 낙찰됐다는 거죠.